Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whatever time you're watching this, as always, thanks for watching Common Sense Fishing. So today we're just lounging, hanging out. I'm about to go fishing tomorrow. We'll fill you guys in on how that goes Friday. We'll have some videos coming soon. Had a video drop this morning. We'll have another one, a jerkbait video dropping tomorrow. So super excited to just keep trying to pump out great content as best as I can. Get out there and fish and have fun and keep these live streams going. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. I think I'm really enjoying the idea of a viewer challenge as far as you guys pick a lure and I will go out and try my hardest to catch fish on that lure. Or as well pick a lake or a spot and I'll go out and try to break that spot down and see if I can catch them. So I enjoy these viewer interacted fishing trips. Basically, it's pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to doing some more of these. Basically, where you guys pick the spot and then I go out, or either you guys pick the lure or whatever, and we'll go out there and try to do the dang thing. Sorry, guys. I gotta do text real quick. Hey, babe.
Hi. So which one of these would be better for her?
For who, Amelia?
Yeah.
Probably whey, not the soy.
Well, this is whey protein powder too.
I'll go fish
But
somewhere on the bank. The other one, which one is the whey? Either one, it's just the flavor, right? One's chocolate, one's
well, this
one's.
is Premier Protein. This is 6-star whey protein. It's expensive.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Just get whatever you think. Read the label and see what it has in it, and just don't overthink it. There's always a ton of options,
Super advanced.
She's not a bodybuilder, honey. That's
60 grams of protein.
Yeah.
How many grams of protein does she need?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Are you on a live stream?
Yeah, I'm on the live stream.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh no.
Oh no! Did you hear my daughter at the end? That was hilarious. Oh man. What was I gonna say? So, anyways, I'm going fishing tomorrow. I'm gonna get up early. I've got a couple challenges in mind, so I'm gonna go to Eastman and do some fishing. We'll break that down. But to answer your question, yeah, I'd go somewhere and fish on the bank. So if you have a challenge you want me to break down, a place you want me to fish, or you want to bank fish, I'll go do a bank fishing video. They don't usually get the most traction though, but I don't care. I don't do this for the views. I do it to try to to get views, but to drive the channel and do things that people enjoy and like seeing. So I'll be definitely glad to go do a bank fishing trip. I'd probably want to break it down into a couple different videos and head to a couple different spots and show people how to do different things from bank, how to bottom bounce from bank, how to reaction from bank, how to top water from bank, where to know your limits and what bank you can probably fish or don't fish. Some tips and tricks about, you know, some of the rules around here. I don't know about your area, navigable waterways, what your rights are. I could do some videos bank fishing wise. When you going out to Eastman? So I'm going out tomorrow, brother. Apparently, I'm going to be fishing the River at tournament tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but Saturday night there. So I'm gonna have a partner. I'm gonna go practice. I'm gonna fish the Eastman tournament Saturday. Yeah, so I'll break it down and I'll tell you guys how I'm doing and where they're at, and then may the best man win. I really don't care. I don't got nothing to hide. So yeah, I could break it down pretty good because I've been a bank fisherman most of my life. So um, like knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, what's gonna give you issues, and are you limited? What tackle do you have? So Oh yeah, cool. See you there, Racho, for sure. But I'm gonna go out and got a few ideas. So just to break Eastman down from my past, right? You never know. You got to fish the moment. I love that channel too. It's a pretty cool channel. Fish the moment. But basically, you got to look at the circumstances, the conditions, the water temp, the whole 9 yards. If the water temp is still good, if you see, there's probably going to be some fish, lots of fish up shallow. I'd assume mostly buck males, male fry garters, egg garters. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of females up shallow. There probably will be, and or they'll be just that next drop off. And what we do at Eastman usually to get a lot of quality fish is we get up extremely shallow to the bank and we run Kitex, crankbait, spinner baits. A Kitech works perfect because it goes right through the grass. What happens at Eastman is spring comes and you get all this rain, then all this freaking giant grass grows up, right? And it grows right up next to the shore and all over the hills. And then the lake starts to rise and this grass goes underwater. Now, the bass can't make beds in that grass. They're not going to be in there doing that. But if there's a spot there where they could, they will be. But they'll ambush and they'll sit in there. Bluegills, all kinds of stuff. And then as that grass fills up with water, all kinds of bugs and crap come out, and the bass just go to town eating those. And also setting up in that grass to ambush incoming bluegill, smaller bass, just anything, right? So what happens is we'll get parallel and we'll run. Sometimes a chatterbait works really good, a Kitech, a crankbait. It depends. So if you're in the grass, almost exclusively, I'm going to run a Kitech or a Texas rig with a really light weight just to help cast it and get it down really quick. Even though it's in, I mean, I might use it weightless too, but the bullet weight forces it down and keeps it down. So when you pop it, it can kind of pop up and come down. When you pop a weightless Cinco, it's going to go flying and it's going to cover water quicker, even if it is super shallow. So it's a killer lure to use too. Don't get me wrong. I'll throw a weightless Cinco or a Texas rig Cinco with the smallest possible weight I can get away with, like a 1/16 or something like that, a little bullet weight. A little tiny one just to help with the cast and to kind of put a point on the top of my Cinco so that my Cinco is kind of flattish like this and you got the hook sticking out. And then if I can have that little bullet weight, that's like a little divider that pushes the grass and weeds out of the way. I got a challenge for you. New lake, never been there before and catch a 10-pound limit. New lake, never been there before and catch a 10-pound limit. Sometimes that's super easy. Sometimes it's super hard. We could do that. We could go, let's break a 10-pound limit and just go hit a lake up. So, like, I'm going to Eastman tomorrow. It's not that I haven't been there before. I haven't been there in like a year, though. So, I like using jigs on the rocks, hard bottom, next to wood and the trees and laydowns. I like using the Kitex and Cincos in the grass. I like using square bills and chatterbaits really shallow in the woods and hard bottom and occasional spots of grass, but I'll rip that through the grass sometimes. A jerk bait will work. One of the other things is if there's a lot of post spawn mamas or even still pre spawn and they're not on bed still or yet or whatever the case is, then I'll take a half-ounce spinner bait with a big Colorado blade or a double Colorado blade, and I'll bomb it out there because the lake's so shallow, right? And I do this from shore, but I'll do it in the boat too. Make big long casts up the channels and channel swings and just slow roll your spinner bait, and you get big old monster bass will come out and hit that thing. I don't like to fish Eastman like finesse if I don't have to. So your 14-year-old broke down and purchased the 13 Fishing Code Chrome spinning reel. So far, it has been solid. Sweet. All right, Derek, good choice. I think it's a decent little reel. There's a lot of cheap reels on the market that you could spend your money on. There's a lot of expensive reels on the market that are just really easy to break. The more of the name and less on the product. And as long as you take care of it, don't put it in the mud beat it up, I'm sure it'll take good care of you. I have a 13 fishing reel as well, but obviously there's different, different types and different ones. But I have one of their basic like $50 reels, and it's treated me pretty dang good so far. So I have like a $300 reel or $200 reel that occasionally the drag sticks on, and I have to clean it out and stuff. Daniel Foss, nice to see you on tonight. What lures or fishing techniques would you use for deep water fishing to catch any type of fish? So, Michael McLennan, good question. Now, and appreciate the comment, Daniel. So, what type of lures would I use to catch deep fish, pretty much, right? And almost any type of fish. So, you can catch trout, bass. You can probably go to the ocean and do this. You can catch I've caught nearly every species of fish on a drop shot. So if you want to catch fish, you've never caught fish before, you struggle to catch fish, a drop shot is a lure that allows you to really work the depths really well. You can feel the difference when a fish loads up, and then when they're down that deep, they really don't get real skittish. So you can a lot of the times you can feel them and then lay into them decently, like not hard, but you have to set the hook in a certain way with the drop shot. You want to kind of just lift up fluidly while reeling. You don't want to give them any slack, and you don't want to like drop the reeling or drop your pulling set. You don't go boom like that. You make sure it's tight, and that you just kind of lift up and reel, and you reel fast, but not super fast. Just a steady reel, and you want your make sure your drag set still there. But drop shots, the easiest way. And a lot of people, what they do with drop shots, they have to have electronics. They have to see the fish. To me, I use a drop shot like a search bait, but I'll know where they're at. So let's just say I pull up to a point and I see a bunch of a bunch of bass on the spot on a long point or a big boulder or whatever. So I can drop right down and get them right. But I also, once the bite stops or the fish move away, and I know I'm in a premier spot, I know they're somewhere on this point, and I can look at the shore. I can kind of read the shoreline, figure out how the drop offs or what should be, right? And I'll cast out and I'll fish all over the point in 40, in 20 to 80 feet of water. So deep, to me, it depends what deep is too. So you're talking 20, 25 feet. So like a super slow rolling crankbait, we can get a rig down to 40, 50, 60 feet deep if you want to fish a rig that deep. And it works when the fish are all schooled up and you can't get them to really bite with other lures. You take a rig, toss it past the school, let it sink far, really down there, pop it up off the bottom, and just slow reel it just enough to keep it from getting snagged. And when that goes through that ball of bass, guarantee you're going to come back with a fish or two. It almost always works on those cold weather bass that are sitting down there just hunked up in a group, kind of waiting to turn on. They don't want to bite much. That A rig just fires them up. So you can get a spinner bait down there. Now, a crankbait, the deepest you're going to get a crankbait is about 25 feet. Now, if you're fishing clear water, that means you can pull fish out of 40 to 50 feet deep with a 25-foot dive in crankbait because they will see it and come up for it. The key is to moving it slow, right? And then with some erratic motion, and then stop kind of, and then real slow if you're fishing that deep. So again, it's a great question, but it's a very complex one I could spend all night talking about because I love fishing deep. And then so if you're on the East Coast, if you're in a different area of the country, then deep for you may be 20, 25 feet deep. If you're fishing Shasta, McClure, Pedro, then sometimes deep for you is 60, 70 feet deep. Sometimes Bullard's Bar, right? You might be fishing 70 to 90. It just depends. So, great question. Fluger reels, yeah, I have one of those. Have you used any of the Sixth Sense crankbaits? I've heard good things about them, but would be curious to hear my opinion. Well, thank you very much, Derek. So, for what I like to use is a River to Sea Biggie Papa, pretty much, or a Biggie Smalls. The Ish Monroe crankbait has by far been the best performing crankbait for me followed up by a simple KBD Strike King crankbait from Walmart, the $4 or $5 one. Yes, I've used the 6 cents ones, and sometimes they seem to perform better than the Walmart version, but I don't think they perform better than the Ishman Row River to Sea crankbaits. That's honestly one of our secrets to how me and a couple other buddies have, like, between us, we have probably close to 10 double digits on those crankbaits, and two of them would be for me, like 6 or 7 would be for my buddy, and then one of my other buddy has one. So hold on. Hello, I'm doing my live stream. It's my brother. All right, well, tell Tara I'm all right. All right, all right, Steven, I'm on the live stream. Okay, goodness. Man, my own brother can't handle my kid, I guess, huh? He's 13, thinks he knows it all. They're arguing about who's going to take the dog out right now because the mom who runs the whole show while I'm in here is out at the store really quick. So the what is it? The mouses or the cat's away and the mice are playing. They don't want to see me come out of here, right? And be like, hold on, folks. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm pretty much a pushover, especially my daughter. She gets me wrapped around my finger. What dad isn't, right? All my kids, actually. I'm a sucker. I try to be the best dad I can, though. We all do. So at least I know I do. So, but anyways, back to fishing. So the 6 cents crankbaits, I've used them. I like their wake baits. I've used their wake baits and got a few blow ups and a few decent fish on their wake baits as well. They have some really clean looking wake baits. 6 cents isn't bad at all. They're decent stuff for sure. Used exclusively all day today, along with the Kitech Swing Impact Tennessee Shag Color. 15 to 20 fish today. As much as I wanted to use my square bill, Kitech was on. Yep, sometimes it is. So it depends what you're fishing. Like if you're fishing stuff that has a lot of vegetation and stuff that's just going to give you a hard time with your square bill, that Kitech is on. And then also to me, the square bill, like I said, even sometimes the Strike King has outfished the Biggie Papa. And I think what it all boils down to is it's the wobble of the square bill mostly and the depth that it dives to. And some of the river to sea ones can go 6 to 8 as a square bill. They go pretty far down if you use fluoro and you crank on it hard at first, and then you back off and you roll slow. You can get your crankbait down pretty damn deep for a square bill. But there's factors, right? And there's been times because see, I fish a lot at the Delta, right? I have for many years, and I have another buddy who absolutely loves the square bill with me, right? And we've fished 100 times in the Delta together. So this is my honest opinion, but trust me, it's backed by many, 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 many fishing trips where we both are using square bills, and then we're able to tell if the bigger square bill catches fish versus the smaller square bill because we'll both be using the same square bill, but he'll have the small one, I'll have the big one. And he'll cast in the spot I already made 3 casts to, and boom, get smashed. And after that happens 2 or 3 times, I'll switch to the small one, and boom, I start getting smashed. And then we just go around covering water, just murking them. And usually the pattern will stay like that depending on the weather, right? Stay good for a few days, and then you might have a system move in. They might switch on how they bite. But a Kitech is super deadly. It's definitely one of my favorite. An underspin or a plain old Kitech doesn't always have to have flash and shimmer. So if you're fishing a clear sky, I'll just use a Kitech. If you're fishing overcast with some wind, then it's kind of like a spinnerbait. I want to underspin. And also how finesse the bite is. If it's super finesse, I'll use a Kitech on a drop shot and just barely drag it, and that tail kicks, and it looks like a little bait fish, and I kill it more than robo worms sometimes with little 2.8 Kitechs, and I drop shot them. So that's one of my little secrets right there for winter. So we're going to put you guys on a ton of fish this winter. If you're not a good winter fisherman, I'm going to hook you guys up. And then summer too. So this summer, I'm going to put you guys on the best night fishing and hot weather fishing tips I can. It's not always fishing isn't always, $1 million isn't always awesome. We have our tough days, especially lately. The last year has been tough for fishing for me. I mean, I've done all right, but I'm just used to doing much better. So, but anyways, we were at the Delta. We were both throwing square bills, and I was noticing there were times when the Strike King Square bill seemed to way outperform the river to sea in similar colors and everything. And then there were times, most of the time, the river to sea outperformed the strike king, and then vice versa with the sixth sense. It would usually almost keep up, but if he had a sixth sense or I had a sixth sense on, the river to sea usually took it out. Um, I can't remember really ever smoking them with a sixth sense, and I fished it a couple times. He's fished it. Clear Lake, we used some sixth sense rattle traps or vibe baits, right? And we threw those against the LV 500s. The LV 500s won hands down. So I'm sure there are times, it depends on the rate of fall and all that crap, the body movement, whether it's super tight, right? Or it's real wobbly. So there are times you want something that's real wobbly. There are times that you want something that's real tight. And so I forget. I can't tell. I'd be lying if I acted like I remembered all that. But like I forget which square bill has which wobble. Like if the Strike King has more or less than the River to Sea. But I think that's a super big factor to it. And then if I would assume correctly, I'd assume you want a tighter wobble on a colder day and a more clear weather day, even if it's hot, but maybe it's real clear. Water temps, not water temps could be warm, but water is clear. You got good visibility, and it's not real overcast outside. Then the tighter wobble crankbait's probably going to outperform the bigger wobble. Just I'm assuming depends. I didn't keep like detailed notes to actually go back and be able to, but there were times you could tell if the sun got dark, if it got a little windy or something, one crankbait would always kill the others. And then, during certain, so it wasn't like always one crankbait outperformed. I swear it's the craziest thing. And the only reason I was really able to convince myself of this is because I've spent years on a boat with a dude better than me or as good as me, easy, if not better than me, right? One of my best friends, extremely good at fishing. He's actually got more double digits than I do. I've got four, he's got like eight of them or 10 of them. And they're all on stuff like crankbaits and spinner baits. But so the the delta is just a perfect place for either a kitech or a crankbait if you know how to use it in the grass. But that's one of my, I get excited talking about them. That's one of my favorite lures to throw. All right, let's do this here again. Thanks for answering the deep water question for a newbie. No problem. Do you think the big O crankbaits are a thing of the past? Don't hear too much about them now. I got a double digit on one last year. So it just depends on what your idea. So they were making crankbaits that were literally like I even have one I think still that's like this big with like a bill this big. It dives down like 25 feet and it's massive. But if you're talking about the 25-foot diving crankbaits where the body's like this big and it's got a bill like that big, and they're big old crankbaits. Oh, yeah, I still throw them all the time. I got a double digit on one last year. You guys can, I got 400 and something videos, and I've done this now for a little over 2 years. I've got two double digits on video, and we've got a ton of bigger fish. But I've got 400 and something videos. So if whenever you have free time, if you want to peruse, you can actually go to my video section and you can look through past stuff if you haven't been with the channel real long. I've got some tanks, dude, some monsters. So, but yeah, those big old crankbaits are the biz. You've always been a MEPS, a Gila guy, but have recently been trying to branch out some. Thanks. Appreciate the comments, guys. Thanks, Derek. Are you going to post a live stream on Eastman tomorrow? I probably won't post a live stream from the lake. I might do like an hour or two out there and show you guys like how I'll work things and what I'll do out there. But I got two approaches, if not three approaches to Eastman. It's real simple. I'm going to pull up shallow. I'm going to get around spawning areas and fish from the spawning areas out towards the main lake from there. And I'm not going to fish main lake at all really much. I'm going to focus on where the spawning mamas may be, where the good fatter males that are fry garters might be, and where the post spawn big giant females are, and if there's any big giant females shallow. And my ticket for that will be to get extremely shallow fish parallel and not try to look for fish. I'm going to assume that they're there, make long casts in front of me and not make short ones, and work my bait extremely slow through the strike zone in case there are beds there, sitting moms. I do not have to work my bait real fast right now, but I don't have to work it painstakingly slow like it's the winter. I just have to take my time and give that. If there is a finicky pre-spawn, post-spawn, spawn bass up there, up in the grass, just chilling, or near it in any of those water columns I'm fishing, because I'll fish up in a foot or two of water first, then I'll fish in 3 to 5, then I'll fish in 7 to 10 maybe or something like that, right? And then I'll move on to the next spot. But I'll fish that spot very thorough before I leave. I don't just cruise the shoreline making casts. I think that's extremely not the smartest way to fish. If you think that there's fish in an arm or area or a given spot of the lake, you need to fish it properly, in my opinion, right? So when you roll up to a spot, throw some top water at it, throw some reaction or something in a few different areas. Not having much luck, wait a second, because if there's a ton of lures just going through the water and the fish are like, whoa, what the hell? Let it calm down for a second, then start tossing some lures like some jigs, Ned rigs, a Nico, a drop shot, whatever floats your boat, or a Kitech, right? A Cinco, weightless Cinco. There's a million ways to catch bass, but my favorites at Eastman are to get up extremely shallow. But when I fish a spot, I fish it pretty thorough to make sure that if there's anything there, I caught it, or else I know, because there's fish everywhere. So if I fish an entire area and I didn't catch anything, I'm doing something wrong. And I'm probably in the wrong spot. So then I'm going to leave to a completely different area of the lake, try a different shoreline. So if I'm on the east side, maybe I'm going to go try the west side of the lake. If I'm on the south end of the lake, maybe I'm going to run up to the north end of the lake. And when I'm dialed in, then I'm dialed in. But like I said, my favorite ways are to fish up parallel, power fish with things like Cincos, Kitechs, crankbaits. Also to throw top water, whopper ploppers, walk the baits. If you walk the dog baits, if you see pockets of crap and crud, but big openings and stuff, if you see trees and things and logs and debris, my biggest tip for you guys when you want to catch fish top water, put the whopper ploppers down there for beginners. Walk the dog is great. That'll work. But you want an even higher level bait that will catch you bigger fish and some of the most best blowups of your life, and you ever miss them on the frog, stop throwing the frog then, unless you're throwing over vegetation, right? Throw the popper, good old popper, bloomp, 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 bloomp. And what you do is you fish it efficiently. So instead of taking a whopper plopper and bombing it down the shore, covering all this water, trying to get a fish to come out and eat it, you see a pocket like where you would throw a Cinco. And you toss your popper up in there and you pop your popper out and you pause, that's it, like a jerk bait, you pop it a couple times. And if there's any fish and if there's a lay down, right along the lay down, don't use something that's going to move too fast. Use a popper. Trust me, a popper will kill you some monster bass, will get you some. You don't want to kill it, but you know what I mean? They'll tear it up. There's hula poppers, there's pop R's, there's all kinds of different ones. I would usually go with a hula popper if I'm trying to imitate something real loud and big and I'm going for size and not bites. Big old bloop, bloop, big old open mouth hula popper. It's like a frog, but it's got treble hooks instead of two big hooks. So it's meant to fish out in the open, but it's like frog fishing. It's real loud, makes a bunch of noise and commotion, and it's a big old target, right? The next one that I would use after that would be a pop R. So I'm telling you those, yeah. So I'll get up and I'll fish, and then when I cover that spot, if I've done reaction for a while and I've broken a spot down real thoroughly, I tried some fast reactions, slow reactions, some top water. I thrown a Kitech, I thrown a spinnerbait or a crank. Then I know it's bottom bouncing time, and I'll pull off and I'll move to a different area or that same area if I know there's fish there. And then that's when the Cinco comes out, the Ned rig, the drop shot. It just depends. So particularly for Eastman, I like to use a swing head, a ball head, swing head jig. Basically, it's called a U head. That's I think the name. Eagle Claw and a couple other make it, and it's just a round ball so that it doesn't get snagged easy. It's not a football, but it's a round head, and then the hook swings freely. And I use the eagle claw ones. Make these real skinny, shitty hooks. You can get some nice ones that have the big old wide gap hooks that you can lay into these big bass with. And I like to throw Cincos on those. And the Cinco falls down like a Ned rig, so it comes down like a Ned rig and then swings like this. And then when you pop it, it has a motion that's kind of like a Carolina rig, but not quite. The Cinco's directly attached to the head, and the Cinco can freely move. So you can shake it and make the Cinco flutter like a shaky head. You can do all kinds of crazy cool stuff with it. The way that it's set up, that round head pulls through the grass, and the weeds really easy there. So I'm using reaction, which is usually going to be a spinnerbait, double blade Colorado, or single blade Colorado, big midnight special or something like that, or like a Booyah double Colorado spinnerbait with a trailer that matches it, and nothing big because I don't want to get short strikes. I want the fish to eat it, not miss the hook. So I don't use long trailers or anything too big. I like things that hang near the hook, and I ride them all the way up the skirt up like a jig trailer. Um, so only a little bit of the trailer is sticking out past the skirt. It just gives it more body, and it helps puff that skirt out a little more, makes the spinnerbait seem bigger. So man, there's a lot of intricate stuff that it's not rocket science, but like to throwing spinnerbaits, to the little stuff about why you pick one or over the other. And it's just like over years it's become second nature, where I'll roll up to a spot and I'll know this is somewhere I'm going to want to throw a Kitech over a crankbait. This is somewhere I'm going to want to throw a crankbait over a Kitech. And both could be vegetational, but for example, if you're fishing in hydrilla, a crankbait will rip through that and will dislodge the hydrilla very easily, because the hydrilla is brittle and it's porously open. So the hooks, when you rip through a bunch of hydrilla and the hydrilla gets stuck on your crankbait, you do a double rip. And the first rip rips through, and then anything that's caught on it afterwards as it kind of floats out rips off the second rip. And then you get bit like that a lot of times. It's almost like a jerk bait. So, but if you use a square bill in grass, which is different than hydrilla, well, then the grass gets stuck on to the actual hooks. And then when you pull the grass with you, and it's much harder to rip a crankbait through grass and not pull a gang of grass with you. And I notice I don't get bit quite as much using a lure like that. Then if you're using weedless, right, like a Kitech or a Cinco, grass is something that I would prefer to throw that in. And a spinnerbait's blades, if I go through hydrilla, they may get a little stuck in it, and all I have to do is pop my spinnerbait and it rips the hydrilla right off. If I run my spinnerbait through grass, the grass winds itself around the little swivels and the blades won't spin, and it just sucks, right? So certain lures do not belong in certain vegetation, or they're much harder to use, if that makes sense. And like in wood, I'll throw a crankbait in wood, I'll throw a spinnerbait in wood, but I'll throw all kinds of different stuff in wood, because I can bounce and deflect off of it. So I don't really have to worry about getting, if you know what you're doing, as soon as you feel the wood, you stop, because it's a fish, it'll pull back, right? And then you can set the hook. If it's wood, you just stop. Oh, that's wood. And then you give it slack and your crankbait floats. So the bill hits it first. So you got your little wood and the crankbaits come around, the bill hits it. And then if you feel that and you don't dig it in and put the hooks into it, now your crankbait will just float off and you can go on about your merry way. So there's a lot of intricate, it's not really intricate, but there's a lot to fishing each different lure type and knowing when, to use it where. So I try to give the best tips that I can, but I can easily start going down a rabbit hole or over explain it. So my apologies if I did that, but be going back watching your videos new to channel. Well, thank you, Michael. Yeah, I do. I've got 400 and something videos. I've got a couple double digits, ton of monsters. I've rescued a dude, rescued animals, kicked in the door while a house was burning down. I've done like I've seen so much fun stuff on this channel. We got drunk as hell. My buddies have fell in the water. My buddies have dropped their poles in the water, their phone in the water, swimming for their phone and their gear. I've had a guy lose half his fishing pole and he didn't listen to me, and it was so funny. I'm laughing so hard I almost fell out the boat. We have some great times on this channel. There was one time we went with a buddy of mine, and we got him and my other buddy got super belligerent, and I was the sober driver, and I'm just sitting here recording them, making fun of them, and they're both passing out, and one of them looks kind of like Bald Bull from Tyson's Punch Out. So we just were kind of like, he was in the drunk, so he started calling him Bald Bull, so I started calling him Bald Bull, and we were all messing around having fun. He was taking it, good, and my buddy fell in the lake. Yeah. So, anyways, we got a lot of fun videos to go check out in the past. So, anyways, yeah. Let's see here. 2.8 Tennessee shad. Wait, okay, yeah, we already read that. Does slow rolling a spinnerbait in the post spawn still work like in the pre spawn? I've been on a good underspin bite looking to get a nice kicker. Should I just upsize the underspin or different area? I would recommend, if you're catching them on an underspin, you can try maybe throwing a spinner bait with a swim bait with a Kitech as the trailer. Think of it as this: it's a big underspin. You're just gonna upgrade. So slow roll it. Yeah, and the slow rolling the spinner bait in the post spawn will definitely work the exact same in the pre spawn, because there's gonna be two different stages. Bass, when they're done spawning, a lot of the females are gonna go just like sit in the next kind of foot or two or the next drop off away, watch the bed, hang out there with the male. But they'll be kind of lockjaw, hard as hell to catch. But if you're on the bed, if you mess with their eggs, they will eat it, right? So, but she'll be right there with the male. But just usually, if you see the bed, the female will be the fish that's located towards the deeper side of the water, and the male will be the one cruising around up shallow. And you see two of them, you'll notice one's more deeper and on one edge, but she's still right there next to the bed. If he can't do his job, or if he bites enough and you don't set the hook, then the female will come step in. Anyways, that's a pre-spawn, right, or during. But and pre-spawn, they could be cruising out behind the spawning flats looking for food, waiting, staging, and they need that fat meal, right? So slow rolling a spinner bait works both ways too, because now post spawn, they've laid all their eggs, they ran out of their energy, they need a big meal now again to recuperate after spawning. So a spinner bait's a great lure. Post spawn, you got to slow roll it though. When the water heats up and it gets starts getting real hot, and the bluegills come in and we start getting into June and July, then you can start fishing real fast. Then you'll be able to use a fast moving jerk bait that floats closer to the top of the water. You can use top water all day. You don't even have to put it down. You'll be able to throw jigs galore. Crankbaiting's your thing. Crankbaiting will turn on. Summertime, power fishing, you will usually win the day. There'll be days where power fishing doesn't seem to do the trick and you need to finesse, in which case, I can Ned rig up shallow or a drop shot. And they can also be in the summertime, they can almost mirror the winter. They could be in 50, 60 feet of water. They could also be in 30 feet of water, over 200 feet of water, suspended, chasing a bait fish school. So, they'll start getting real aggressive though. If you find them, if you're not catching fish, they're not there. So in the summertime, move around until you find fish, and then when you find fish, stay there and kind of chase them around. You'll have big schools of them to catch, and just try to find the big fish. So if you're catching a ton of little fish, get out of there. Go find a different spot, and cycle through until you start catching decent fish, and then cycle to bigger baits. Crankbaits and jigs are my go-to in the summertime. We're going to do some good summertime videos about catching monsters. That's my favorite. So can you catch fish using top water in 20 feet plus water? Yes, you can. The bass will come out. Sometimes the bass may be 2 feet underwater over 50 feet deep of water. And so your top water is a perfect lure for those fish. There are times when the bass are in the top 10, 15 feet of the water column, and they can be anywhere from 10 or 15 feet deep, right on the bottom, or they could be 10 or 15 feet deep, over 20 feet, over 30 feet, over 40, 50, over 100. I've seen them over 300 feet deep, bass for sure. We've caught them. You drop down an LV 500 or a jig and spoon or a drop shot. You're like 280, 300 feet deep, like the deepest part of the lake in a big old V. But there's like a big floating dock or something there. And then there's a bunch of shad or bait fish that hangs out there. You look on your fish finder and you see a school. They're not on the bottom. The bottom's 200 feet deep or plus, right? It's probably 280, I think it was, or some 250, 280. And the bass are like in 30 to 50 feet and big old schools swimming around down there. You can see bait fish and everything. Drop your lures on, boom, start catching 2 and 3 pounders. So they're that is extremely tough to find. It's rare and it's tough, but you can do it with your electronics. But damn, is it usually you get turned on to those fish by watching some fish bust and jump, and you're like, what? And then they kind of go back down. Maybe this cloud cover was out, you're fishing, and you look out, and out in the middle of the lake, you see fish busting, and you're like, what the? And you're like, and it's out in the middle of the lake or something. You'll go drive out over there real quick, get the motor, use your trolling motor, get out there, and sure enough, underneath you be a big ass school of fish, and they'll be bass most of the time, right? And you can catch them. LV 500 spoons, they're just super tricky. They're not easy to catch. And then what can happen is you can drive out over to where they were at, and now they may be over here. Then you can go this way, but what if they weren't that way and really they were over here, right? And so they can be a number to catch. Usually it's great when you see them in an arm or in a cove. And a good example of that would be new Maloney's. You can see them in the dam sometimes over like 100 and something, 200 feet of water, busting fish, and be like, damn, that's bass. And you pull out over them, sure enough, and deep sea fish for them and whack them. Nowhere near shore. And your bait's not on the bottom either. So you would never catch them that deep. They don't go that deep. But yeah, if you could only take two spinning rods reels out on the lake with you, what would you take? My B day is Friday and I'm looking for a new setup. If I could take only two spinning rod reels out on the lake, what would you take? And if it had to be spinning and it wasn't a bait caster, because if I had a choice, it would be one spinning and one bait caster. It would be a medium action spinning rod. I can throw almost anything on a medium action spinning rod. I could throw small top water, medium, even medium top water. I could throw crankbaits, most crankbaits up to a medium diver. I can't just you don't want to throw the 22, 25 foot divers on those, but you can throw like a 12 or 15 foot diver. The medium will handle it fine. Just have to have your drag set and be using like 12-pound test or something. Which a spinning rod, you have to use lighter line. So you want a spinning rod that's a reel that's capable of, at least the max needs to be 12 or 14. You don't want to, I mean, you can get a big old hefty spinning rod that can hold 17-pound test. You can go to braid like most guys do. But I found I really prefer the way one solid line works. I don't like fishing with braid. There's no stretch, no give. It's sensitive, yes, mind you, but so is fluorocarbon. There's very few. I'll fish braid for frog fishing, punching, and that's about it. I know you can save money, blah, blah. You go braid to a leader, but I just prefer the comfort. I'll just spend the extra money, screw it. And I run all fluoro or all mono. I don't play around with that crap. So, and it's served me pretty well throughout the years. Yeah, I spent a little bit more extra money on fishing line, but I'm not cheap. Me, I spend money. It's $20 to go to Carl's Jr. nowadays and get a damn meal, or $15. Two people, you and your wife go. Used to be you can get a double Western combo for like $6, $7. Now they're freaking 15.99. Hell, they had two double westerns for $5 back in the days. Just a couple years ago. Now just one by itself is like $8, $9. You get the meal, it's like 14, $15. Like, right? Anyways, went on a tangent, but um, have you ever gone overboard during a fight with a monster fish? No. I could easily stage it and get a lot of views, but never have I done it on my show. Me and my buddy. So I'll tell you guys a story real quick. This is the same trip where they're hella drunk as hell and they're falling asleep and I'm making fun of them. They're making fun of them. The guy that looks like Bald Bull. Well, my other buddy that I've known for like 30 years, He's up front with me, just belligerent, all drunk, right? And they're all blah, blah, blah. And I'm fishing. And we are using weightless Sinkos and we're throwing them up shallow, but we're fishing from deep kind of. And we're working it out halfway to the boat, taking our time. And then occasionally we're fishing in front of us. And we're looking and we're fishing along a dock. And we both spot at the same time, right underneath the dock, there's like a probably 4 or 5 pound largemouth just sitting there, right? And it's in front of us where we can catch it if we don't spook it and act dumb. But my bait's closer to the boat, so I start reeling it in hella fast and go to make a cast at it. Right, this fool reels his shit in super fast, all drunk, and goes to cast and try to beat me. And I'm all flipping my bell, doing my stuff, and I go to make my cast, and he goes, and he throws his whole pole and reel in like some kind of stupid ass like funny movie, right? And I hit record. I'm like, this is gonna be funny. So I start to hit record, and he's like, ah, he freaks out and he jumps in my pole. Because what he does is he doesn't just jump in, he like tries to reach in and grab it, but the pole started to sink. And as he was grabbing, the pole kept sinking at the same rate. And then he reached too far and rolled right over the edge of the boat. And right that's when my little GoPro clicks on. Bleep, bleep, bleep. And then he comes up, right? And he's got the fishing pole and he puts it on the boat. He's like, yeah, I didn't lose my pole. And then he gets out and he's like, oh, and he's all feeling around. He's like, oh, bro, my phone. He goes all bad. He's all phone foul, phone foul. And I'm like, do you got your keys? He's like, oh. And he goes, yeah, I got my key. And he opens his wallet. He's got like 4 checks, this idiot, right? Because he gets paid from his job via check. And he saves instead of putting it in the bank account in one shot. Sometimes what he'll do, I guess he gets paranoid. I don't know what it is, but this fool will save like 4 or 5 checks up inside his wallet, right? Not saying his name or anything. And this fool fucking just almost ruined, right? Everything. And it was just all for, and then the rod that he jumped in for was like a 29.99 Walmart rod with a 10.99, 29.99 reel or something. It was the funniest one. I'm laughing hysterical though. I'm like about to turn purple. I'm busting a gut laughing at him. And then the other dude, Ball Bull, he starts waking up. What's going on? It's the funniest, dude. It's hilarious. So I've never gone overboard. I've had a friend do it, and yes, it was supernatural, not staged. But we've seen a boat crash on the California Delta. We saved the dude. The boat, he was going about 80 miles an hour, and he flipped his boat 3 times. And as what happened is when the boat flipped, it popped up like this, and he flew out of the boat. And then when he hit the water, he flipped, and then the boat landed on him and crushed him. And then the boat flipped, and then you could see him. He didn't quite go as high, and he started skipping along the water, flipping. And then the boat hit him again, and then one last time it hit him again, and then they all sunk right there. And he had a life vest on. He popped up real quick, and me and another buddy were fishing. We smash and we go get him. We're like, we go get him. We pull up. We make sure he's not like killed and busted into pieces. We were expecting him to be like missing an arm or leg or just be gashed and bloody and just be cut and blood everywhere like a Jaws movie. And we get there and he's just like looking dead, but like he's alive. And we weren't sure if we should pull him out of the water, but I was a bit worried about either way we were going to have to move him. He's in the water. We're going to have to move the boat with him to the side. Of course, he's floating is better on him, but we got him. He kind of woke up and we're like, hey, are you okay? And he's like, I think so. I'm not sure. He's all messed up. He's like, I don't know. He's super old, right? So we go and we eventually we get him to the boat and we start kind of tugging on him, messing with him, and he's not like making any crazy noises. His foot moving. So we just made the decision. We hauled him on board, and then we made him comfortable. His pants were down, and I pulled his pants up on the video. I'm like, let's get your britches up. Super cool dude, though. He sent me a photo. I have a photo of him. He sent me a bunch of lottery tickets that I didn't scratch off or catch in or do anything. I just kept them. And he sent me a letter and stuff like that. His name's the Ducky. He actually holds like a world record in speedboat. He's kind of famous actually, so it's pretty cool. Hey Mike, how's it going? What's the weirdest thing you ever used for bait? Oh, that's a great question. So, in my youth, I fished for everything. I still do. There's a video I'm catching a bunch of carp at Lake Yosemite at the Tug Addicts get together. But one thing I've used for bait that definitely had to be weird is I was fishing for giant carp with Cheez Its. And we would, get beer, Cheez Its, and some other stuff, or a bunch of Cheez Its. And we would chew the crackers up just enough where they weren't slimy and too spitty, but where they weren't dry, and they would dough up in a perfect dough ball like power bait. And you'd have to make sure the inside was mush. You had to do it correct, but not overly, or else it would just fall off. And then you put it on your hook, you dunk it in the water to let it kind of solid up, and then you toss it out there. And we would catch 2 and 3 foot long, I'm talking 20 plus pound carp with that. That's got to be one of the weirdest things. Another thing we've done is I've thrown like a lizard and a snake on the bait when I was in high school. Caught fish with those, the lizard and a little rattlesnake. We put a rattlesnake on the hook, tossed it out there, caught a bass with a rattlesnake or a gardener snake. I don't remember which one it was, but we used to pick up rattlesnakes when we were kids. So we found them. What we would do is we weren't dumb. We wouldn't just go walk up and go pick up a rattlesnake. We knew they could kill you. So we just get a little stick or something, poke it behind the snake's head, hold it down, and grab it behind the head, and then pick it up, scare people, Mac. Ooh. Then you just toss it. So or if that was, I wasn't a big fan of tossing it because it could strike back at you. That was what I always thought. So if I was going to release it, I'd just simply put it back down on the ground, put the stick back over its head, let go of this hand, and then let go with the stick, and then back off. They were never able, they have to coil to strike, and always out of distance do it with a far arm reach. Well, we weren't that reckless, but yeah, we used to do some dumb shit. But I've used bluegills. Bluegills is one of my favorite live bait actually. So what I like to do, I might do a video on this tomorrow, and it's legal at least in California. Only if you catch the bait in the same body of water that you intend to use it, right? So say I'm going to go to Eastman tomorrow. Well, then what I do is take a 5 gallon bucket with me, pick up some worms from the little liquor store on the way to the lake, get my bobber out, my 6 pound test, my spinning rod, catch a bucket full of bluegill real quick, make it, fill it up with bluegill, then take some nice big old 2, 3 odd hooks or something, put them through the back of the bluegill, no weight, no nothing, and you get up shallow in a shallow flat near a spawning area where there's no wood, nothing to get snagged on or anything, and let them go in a foot of water and just open your bell and watch them swim off. And then what you'll notice is at all of a sudden, sometimes it happens within about 5 seconds of release. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 minutes. Your bait will just start flying, and you'll know it ain't the bluegill. It's just way too fast. It'll start. Then what you do is you do it with high. You make sure your drag set and your bell's open. You have your rod tip high. You close your bell and lower the rod, because if you close your bell and you stop that fish too quickly, you'll snap your line, even if you got 10, 12 pound test. You want to do the hook set right. So you flip the bell, lower to the rod, and then pull back. Do not hook set, because that fish is already smashing, has that bluegill in there. You just want to pop the hook basically free of the bluegill's back and into the fish's mouth. And it also gives the fish time enough to take the bluegill. You're usually going to get a nice hook somewhere. You won't gut hook them. The bluegill is usually too big. You're not going to have enough of it down the throat. You just want to rip the hook free of the bluegill's back and dig into the fish's lip. And we'll catch 5 to 8, 9 pound bass like that. And it's one of the funnest ways to catch them. And if your lake has bridge pilings, if your lake has a bridge that goes over it, go do that. Go somewhere, catch some bluegills in a bucket, put them in there, drive to the bridge pilings and drop the bluegills right down the bridge. Same thing with your bell open. All of a sudden, you'll see it start smashing one way. And you can thank me later. But yeah, I mean, big old, hey, bass fishermen, we don't like to bait fish. Not me. I'll fish for anything, anyway, anyhow. So I don't get too high and mighty about using some bait now and then. You don't in a tournament. I don't ever cheat, but when it comes to having fun, hell yeah, I'll throw some bluegill on the hook and let's go have a good time, right? So let's keep going here. Have you ever gone overboard? No. Can you tell me? I have little luck using jigs. I usually have one pole rigged up with a jig, but after a while I have to put it down because it doesn't produce for me. All right, we're going to answer that question. It's a great question before we get any further. Great question, also, young Nat type. So, jig fishing, you got to really figure out the main few different things are going to be retrieval speed and jig size. So try to carry a couple different jig sizes with you, from a 3/8, a half ounce, and maybe a 3/4 or something like that. Um, and have a couple different shades, a green or a brown jig, something that's more of a natural color. Then have like a reddish brown or a purple and black, or have a darker color jig for stained water. Have a realistic looking jig for clearer water. And in dark water, you usually want a jig that falls slower, and in clear water you want a jig that falls faster, so that it's kind of more like a reaction bait. Those fish can see really good, so you need the jig to drop down and then hop away. Fish will go get it, right? And you can be slow with it, but you want a heavier jig because it falls quick. If it falls real slow, bass might be like, you know cold water as well, kind of same principle. But the idea is you need to figure out those two things: how big of a jig, whether it should be dark or light. Those would be my main. Just keep it simple, right? There's much more to it than that, but to catch your first few jig fish, the easy way to figure it out is going to be just carry a couple different sizes in a couple different colors. I don't mean have 100 jigs, just have 5 or 6, right? And have a couple green or browns, a couple blue, reds, purples, whatever, some weirdo colors, um, and also some different weights in each category, right? Now, once you've selected one of those, now you have to figure out your retrieve. So, main retrieve for a jig is going to toss it out, let it sink, and kind of hop it, let it sink and sit for a second, reel your slack in, and kind of hop it. And it's just little hops, right? Some bigger, some a little bit smaller. Then your next one can be hop with a drag, and then a little couple hops, and then drag. Then your third one would be cast it out, let it sink, and then no hops at all. Do not overly lift your rod tip. Simply drag your rod tip from one direction to the other to slowly crawl your jig across the bottom. When you feel a rock, just kind of pop a little bit to get so the head doesn't dig in and it comes up. And then same thing, just drag it over the rock, boom, and then just keep going. And um, so there's that three. And then the fourth one really is a really violent popping. Basically, let it sink and then pop it hard so your jig flies through the air and then sinks again. And then reel in your slack and maybe a couple small pops and then a big pop, and usually you want a lighter falling jig for that. Give it some time if you want, or it depends if it's clear water, you can go with a heavy one. Also, you can put different trailers on your jig that'll give it different action and will also affect how fast or slow it falls. So, for example, if you want to maintain a quick speed of fall, you don't want your bait to slow down, right? But you want to put a trailer on there. Try putting a Cinco, like a Ned rig. Put a half a Cinco on your jig. Trust me, it works. I mean, you might think that's crazy, but put a worm, like a curly tail, 6-inch curly tail worm, and cut an inch or two off and put it there. Put a swim bait on. Put a crawdad on with flappy tails. But if you don't, we'll see if you that'll slow your bait down. Stuff like that'll slow your bait down. If you want to maintain fast, yeah, I forgot that's what I was talking about. So use like a worm, like a Cinco. Your bait will go fast, but then when that poof ball opens up, there'll be a nice big Cinco portion inside of that poof ball, if that makes sense to you guys. And it still has a little action too. It's really what happens is underwater when that jig opens up like this, it's just a bunch of hair. If you have a nice fat Cinco that sticks out an extra inch or half inch past the hair, the fish can that adds to that profile. And it's a great little way to put a trailer on your jig and not slow it down. So if you're fishing in real clear water and you know that you want to use a faster falling jig, then use a worm as a trailer. If you're fishing in dirtier water, you want to cause more commotion, want the thing to fall a little slower, use something like a brush hog for a trailer. Use something like a crawdad or a creature bait, a D-bomb, a baby D-bomb. Uh, just depends on the size of the jig you're working. And so then the other thing is figuring out what kind of jig. So if you're fishing in grass, then you want to have like a swim jig. You want to have a jig with a pointed head like this so that it goes through the vegetation. If you're fishing in wood, you want to use something similar so that it kind of pulls over. And you also want to make sure that your jigs have weed guards. You can cut a few of them off, you can sparse them out, you can do some tricks with the weed guards. But if you're fishing in vegetation and wood and cover, you want to have weed guards. If you're fishing in hard bottom dirt and or rock, then my advice is find jigs with no weed guards. So it's like a big ass Ned rig with a skirt, so that when the fish bites, there's no impediment to the hook popping through the mouth. It's clear. There's no trees. There's no vegetation. What the hell do you need a weed guard for? A weed guard will not prevent your jig from getting snagged in a rock. A craggly ass steep dart, thing in a rock and your jig falls in that weed guard or not, it's going to get snagged, right? And then you have to get over it and wiggle it and pop it out, right? So a weed guard does not do you any good in rocks. And so you will hook up way more fish if you cut your weed guards off or specifically order and look for jigs that have no weed guards if you're fishing areas that do not have wood and vegetation. You take those three key components and you just keep fishing a jig, I swear to God, you're going to catch some jig. You're going to catch some fish. So if you're fishing in vegetation, grass, stuff like that, you need to use a swim jig type of head or a grass jig, right? It's going to have more of a triangular head. It's going to be more water dynamic and split vegetation easier. The big old round head jig, football head jig, and stuff like that is going to catch all that vegetation. So, and it's just more surface area resists pulling through that vegetation, right? So really, there's not a lot to it other than that. Figure out the speed of retrieval and the type of retrieval, whether they want it hopping and bouncing, or do they want it dragging? Do they want it moderate, kind of a little fast? Do they want it super slow, kind of slow? Or do they want it like ultra slow, right? Do they want a dark jig or a light jig? You stick with those main principles. Don't overthink it, and just go out there and fish. Jig fishing is one hell of a way to catch some good fish and almost produces all year long. The trick is just getting some of those real finessey bites that feel like snags at first, learning how to feel for those and wait. And then when you feel the pole start to vibrate, shake, or pull away from you a little bit or towards you, or that's a fish. Rocks aren't going to do that unless you're on a boat doing that, right? And then you're in a rock, and then it's so, but it's not rocket science, man. Good luck with that. I hope you smack some jig fish. So, beat them banks, right? What up, Mike? Working today? Hey, pops, we're all good to see you on. Uh, yeah, been there and done that. So the temperature is dropping 20 degrees on Sunday. How do you think that will affect the fishing that week? That will push all bass except for the most ardent of fry garters and bed bass. It will push all bass off until about the fish that are in 2 to 3 foot might go 5, 6 foot range. But you're going to have a lot of bass in the probably 8 to 20 foot range, 25 foot range, and post spawn mamas might even pull down to about 30 feet. There should be some suspended fish, but look for them if they're normally suspended in a warm temperature like this, and you have a 20-degree temp drop on Sunday, but not on Saturday. So Saturday is going to be warm, but Sunday's going to be cold. You're going to have a massive front come in. Those fish should be feeding on Saturday. So they should be more active. They should be more shallow. But look for a certain time of night or at the end of the day when that system starts moving in that drops Sunday's temps. Look for the fish to pull out then. the fish will slow down, they'll pull out, and they'll still eat. All you have to do is fish a lot slower. And like I said, there'll be a lot of fish this time of year right now when it's warm that, let's say, they're post spawn, that are just swimming around cruising real lazy and slow like. And they could be anywhere in 5 feet of water out to about 15 or 20 feet of water. They could be right under the surface. They could be 10, 15 feet deep, but usually they're kind of in the mid level. But when a system comes in, that's going to push them towards the bottom. But being that it's kind of spawn and that what it is spawn and it's almost post spawn pretty much, these fish, even though it's a system coming in, they won't slam right on the bottom like they will in the wintertime. They'll go so much into the bottom, they'll disappear from your fish finders a lot of the times. And they're still there. You fish, nothing on your fish finder, you'll pull fish out left and right. Unless you're really good at catching them, they'll really look like little lumps on the ground. You won't be able to tell what they are because they'll be literally sitting in the mud. So it depends on when your temp drop is. So the temp drop of 20 degrees this time of year, I say, is going to make them more active basically tomorrow and Saturday, so Friday and Saturday, and then sometime Saturday or Saturday night as Sunday system comes in. Because if Sunday's 20 degrees colder, you got to understand that means that the system didn't come in Sunday because it would be warm and then starting to get cold. That means if it's Saturday's warm, Sunday's cold, the system is coming in sometime Saturday. So the system will more than likely come in while we're out on the lake if you're fishing the tournament, if you're fishing Eastman, or if you're anywhere in California area right now where the system's moving in, if that's what's happening. Now, if that's not happening here, but it's happening where you're at, because I don't know, I'm just assuming, then expect a very similar response. The fish are going to pull off and they're going to go lower. They shouldn't meld right into the bottom, but they're going to basically be bottom bouncing fish. You're going to want to use things like a Nico rig. I'm going to suggest using, instead of going weightless, when you get a cold front, if they aren't active and actively feeding, then you're probably going to want to go with something like a drop shot, Ned rig, Nico. You're going to want to get on the bottom. So throw it in 5 feet of water, let it get down and then slowly work it down to like 20 and take your time like as if it was the winter, because they've got all the time in the world. They don't have a job to go to. They don't have a tournament weigh in. They don't have bills to pay. They're going to chill until they're ready to move back up, and then they'll do that. There may be periods of time where they become more active than others when the sun's out, or well, vice versa when it's warm, or versus when it's cold. But either way, during some kind of massive front like that, you're going to want to take it and chill pill a little bit. And if you do use reaction, go to something like a jerk bait with pauses, long pauses. And that jerking reaction can cause the fish to strike. Another thing would be a a what is it called? A like a fluke, like a soft jerk bait that can sink a few feet and then pew, pew, same thing with a weightless Cinco. But if you put a little nail weight in the head and you hook it like Texas rig, and it'll dart like that when you tap on it, and then it'll start to sink. If you put a small, don't put a heavy one because it'll go straight down, but if you put a small nail weight in the head of your Cinco, you can cast it farther, and then your Cinco will land, and instead of sinking like that, it'll start to, and then it'll kind of just nose down, and then when you jerk it, it'll pop like a jerk bait to the left or to the right, and it'll have this violent jerking action. And then when you get over 10, 15 feet of water, because you have that nail weight, you can wait and let it just slowly die and go down to the bottom and then pop it up from there. And it's not as painful as waiting for a full on weightless Cinco. You see what I'm saying? Hope that makes sense. Best jig trailer for me, I like a baby D bomb. I love the D bomb. It's like a sweet beaver. It's a ribbed oval bait like this that has just two big flappers, and that's it. Just two big simple flappers that go like that, and it's a real sweet and simple bait. I juice them all up. I also like to use, believe it or not, I'll use brush hogs. I'll take the top off of the brush hog, like cut just a little bit off, and then I'll leave the top arms. but I'll cut it right above the top arms, or sometimes I cut the top arms off. I'll take a little extra off, take it almost halfway, but a little bit past it. And then those brush hogs have the two hind legs, plus they have the double tail that flaps, and it's got like a curly tail worm. Another thing, like I said, if I want to keep a faster rate of fall, I actually like to use a curly tail worm as a jig trailer. I do some weird stuff that a lot of people don't think of, and I've had some real good success with it. It just depends on what kind of water I'm fishing. So, like if I'm in real clear water and I'm bottom bouncing a jig and I feel like I'm getting bit and I'm catching fish, but I want to try to get some bigger fish, I'll put a Cinco particularly on my jig as a trailer, and it works real good. It's like a big Ned rig, but with a skirt. So that's my little cheat code for you for tonight. Do old plastics setting around for years still do good to fish? Depends on what condition they're in. If they're real hard and not flexible, no, throw them away. If they're still soft and good, yeah. I'll tell you a trick that I did not make up. So I'm going to give credit where it is due, but I've tried it and it works. It makes sense, and I like this trick. So it comes from Randy Blaukat, Intuitive Angling with Randy Blaukat. And what he does is he actually takes his worms, whatever he's using, if it's a robo worm, if it's a crawdad, if it's a drub, a Yamamoto, a Cinco, and he takes it and he rubs it like he's twisting a joint or a blunt or something or a cigarette, right? And he rubs it and he pulls on it and he does this and he roughs it up. And what happens is it's crazy. It changes the color of the item to a much more realistic color, and it changes the tint just a little bit, and it brings out a ton of salt. So the worm, like get a Yamamoto Cinco, right? It'll look all smooth and clean, and it'll have whatever color it is. And then you rub it up and you rough it up and you twist it, and you'll see all the salt granules will start coming out of it. And also the worm will start turning a different color. It's awesome. So I love that tip. I'm super glad he shared that with us. He's a professional angler. And I know, we don't all watch the same fishing channels. That's not my tip, but it's one that I've been doing. And I figure, I share that with you guys. It's a great way to rough up your baits, he likes to say. And it's a great little tip. So you can take your old baits, do a little bit of roughing up to them, but they already kind of look roughed up. I don't really fish other than going on striper trips, deep sea on charters a few times. Fish my backyard too. Do you have any advice on fishing in a pond with a bunch of lily pads? Dude, topwater frogs, stuff like that. Young Nat type, thanks for hanging out tonight. I understand if like sometimes we talk about other stuff other than fishing. This is a cool channel where we just hang out and I interact. I read the comments. So it's a big chat room too. A bunch of cool dudes, a real good community. We do a lot of fun stuff here. So thanks for hanging out. Now, to answer your question, you got a backyard. You probably live on a pond, maybe a golf pond or something like that. Might live in Florida. You may be in California. I don't know. I'm in California. But if you're on a golf pond or in Florida, you got some lily pads. You need to fish with braid, and you should probably stick with one of two lures. Um, I would either throw a frog, or even with braid, I would use a Cinco with like a small little nail weight in it, and you cast it along the lily pads. And whenever you see openings in the lily pads, drag your Cinco along and let your Cinco fall in there, and then pop it and jiggle it and wiggle it around. And if you don't get bit after 10-15 seconds, reel it up a little bit until your Cinco hits the lily pad and kind of pop it a little bit, and it'll pop right up, and then drag it across the lily pads, and you get hit like you're frog fishing. Boom, set into them, right? And then if not, drag your Cinco to the next hole and then let it fall in. And that's how you bottom bounce a pond with lily pads. And if you're not doing that, you can also just take your Cinco out, cast it, and literally drag your Cinco across lily pads. You just have to make sure you have the tip of the hook buried into the Cinco pretty good so it doesn't snag on anything, and that'll pull and drag right along. And bass will come up and eat your Cinco. So you can use your Cinco like top water, and you can also get it into the holes. You want to use a small weight so that you can control it a little better. You have a little more ability to pop it and move it, and also to sink down and not rest on something. If it's got a kind of little weight in there, then if it hits like there's another lily pad underneath this one, kind of underwater, it might just land on it and stay there. But if it's got some weight, it'll roll off, right? So that's the one big way. And then a frog, top water, something like a frog, just variate, throw it fast, throw it slow, give it pops, obviously, and take your time. And when you start catching fish, you'll start knowing what they want. Maintain that same rhythm. And if you're missing fish, you have a lot of missed bites. Remember, rule one for frog fishing is wait till you feel the bite to set the hook. Don't set the hook when you see the bite, because there's a big old explosion, but the frog may not be in the bass's mouth yet, or the bass may not have closed its mouth. By setting the hook, you could just rip it right out. So wait until the bass has closed its mouth and dive back down, and you feel your pull start to do that. Then you set the hook. And then number two and three is if you're noticing the bass are missing your bait, you're either going too fast or too slow. So if the bass hits behind your bait consistently and you're moving your bait along, and then the bass hits behind your bait, you're moving your bait too fast. If you're moving your bait along and the bass hits in front of your bait, you're moving your bait too slow. Speed it up a little, because the bass is trying to anticipate your bait, and it's miscalculating, or you're not being at a different, at the speed that it thought. And so it planned its trajectory to hit you, but you might have pulled ahead of it, or not even moved at all, or barely moved, and then it hits and you're not there yet. Or it just can't see you. There are a lot of reasons they miss. But one thing I found that'll increase my hookup ratio with topwater is paying attention to where the bite happens in reference to my bait. So if I'm working a bait and I get bit and I don't hook up, I always pay attention. Was that bite behind my bait? Was it in front of my bait? Or was it directly under my bait? If it was directly under my bait, then I got too anxious and set the hook too quickly 9 out of 10 times. Otherwise, it's freak accident. If it bopped, like I said, behind, I'm moving my bait too fast because that bait should have been here, just a hair too quickly. If it was in front of my bait, then I'm just a little bit too slow. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I would do. Man, I would love to have a pond in my backyard one day, man. We get this YouTube channel there. We'll have a pond back there. So Saturday is also colder, but 10 degrees warmer. So we're having I live in California. We don't have pike, but in some of our rivers and systems, we have what are called pike minnows that are basically pike, but they're like smaller. They don't quite get as big. They can get like 20, 30 pounds. They can get really big. I think 30 pounds, 20 something pounds, 30 pounds is the biggest one I've seen. 20 something, I want to say. Hey, Marco Houston, how's it going? So we don't catch those here in California, but yeah, I hear a lot about other guys who fish other YouTube channels and in other states. They definitely do. I've heard them get their baits bit in half or their line or stuff. The teeth smash on it and break the stuff. So that's what they make special pike lures. They're vicious fish. But here we have pike minnows, and they'll do the same thing. They're pretty vicious, and they'll smash your stuff. A lot of people call them squaw fish or crazy fish. They don't quite know what they are, but they're Sacramento pike minnow. Good, bud. How are you? I am doing great, sir. I'm alive. I can't complain. Just waiting for the weather to warm up so I could get busy with my HVAC work. And now we're going to have a 20-degree drop off. Like, oh, great. Maybe I'll go fix a heater or two, whatever. But I'm chilling. I'm doing good, man. I just got a finesse rod, so hopefully this will be my chance to break it in. Oh yeah, man, a medium or a light or medium light. Throw some 8 pound test or something, 10 pound test to start off, unless it's an ultra light. Make yourself, what do you say? I would say make yourself confident before you go down to like 4 to 6, if that's what you want to do. I would start with 8 to 10. Give yourself some leeway for if you get excited and set the too hard. You don't have your drag set. But yeah, good job, Basson. Just get them. Hey, Gerbs, nice to see you on tonight. Thank you. Yo, yo, yo. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We've had a great live stream tonight, so we got a little bit longer. Does anyone have any other questions? And also, before everyone goes, smash that like button if you get a chance. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. We do these live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I do also fishing videos, all kinds of stuff, plus the occasional weird stuff as far as I take care of kids for Christmas. So like every year I do little toy drives. I take guys fishing on my boat. They donate either some money or toys or something. At the end of the year, I take care of as many kids as I can. I do fun stuff like that. I've done fishing rap songs, fishing music videos. We've had some good times on this channel, so I appreciate everybody. But we're almost to 9 o'clock, so for 20 minutes I can keep going and giving you guys some more. I think it's better to get into post spawn and weather change tips if you guys want. But whatever you guys want to talk about, the floor is yours. So for the duration of the time, if anyone has any topics they want to talk about, just leave a comment there. Oh, thanks for jumping in and hanging out tonight, young Nat Type. Appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll see you again sometime. It was my pleasure to hang out with you guys and just tell as give as much advice as I can. I don't think I know it all. It's just what works for me and what I've noticed over the years. I'm not a pro. I've got a ton of trophies, but I haven't won any in the last 2 years. So, do you remember the Orange Gang intrusion? Oh yeah, oh yeah. When the troll session, the green screen night, right? Oh yeah. It's not a green screen. Oh, that shit is funny. I deal with trolling all right. I try to handle it well. It took me a second to realize it. Usually I win the trolls over a bit, right? That's why we try to do also fun stuff on the channel. So it's for other people too, like some camping stuff. I'll post some videos of my Rottweiler passed away, but of my German Shepherds, just some fun stuff here and there too. But I will appreciate it that you're still sub from that. Great, man. That's always good. So, it's good to see people on here. I thought I had seen your name before, the fake fish troll. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I thought I had seen your name on here before a couple times. Um, I'm used to pretty much noticing all the names because I'm so familiar with everybody. We got a little tight knit community here, so you guys are awesome, you guys and gals. Occasionally, we get a lady or two on, so I always like to throw that in there. Hey, guys and gals, I want to try to include as many fishermen as we can. As long as you're seriously enjoying the channel, seriously loving having fun, talking about fishing and stuff like that. I don't care. Troll on, have fun. We all have in good spirits, right? We had one night we were doing free. We've done freestyle Fridays, freaky Fridays. I've told scary stories, crap from my past. So I watched Scott Martin tie a double fluke tonight. Looked awesome in the water. Oh yeah, it's a donkey rig. You guys don't know about the donkey rig? We throw that sometimes too. And then the other trick is I don't know, but I think Mike remembers the Ned rig with the drop shot above it. That's where I got that idea from. I was like, well, instead of using a drop shot weight, why not just put a Ned rig down there on the bottom and then go to a drop shot above it and just tie nice solid knots. Use a little bit heavier line, like 10-pound test, instead of like 6 or 8. And man, away we go. Started catching fish. Then I started adjusting and messing with it. Then I started throwing swim baits on the bottom. Those little tiny, soft, little 2, 3 inch swim baits, like bottom walkers that have the weights inside of them, open hook. And I tie that, and then above it, a couple feet, I have a drop shot, robo worm or something like that, and just slow roll it, popping it, and moving it along. Sometimes you get a fish on the drop shot. Sometimes you get a fish on the swim bait. Sometimes you get two fish at one time. You're bringing one in, all of a sudden it's heavier. What the hell? You get it in, it's two fish swimming and moving. You're like, ah, so same thing with the donkey rig. Good stuff right there. That's a good old school technique. Whenever also one thing to pay attention to is when you start seeing a lot of fry. So when you start seeing a lot of fry, uh, you can start downsizing your baits and using stuff that's real small that darts and moves like that. The little 2.5, 3 inch fluke, the donkey rig, uh, a um, a soft jerk bait like a fluke, like a 4 or 5 inch fluke by itself, um, a Cinco 4 inch, I would use probably, and or drop shots and Ned rigs and stuff. But you're going to get a lot of buck males, a lot of fry garters, but there will be females eating the fry. But usually they're after whatever's big. So jigs, if there's crawdads in the body of water, if there's bluegills, because bluegills spawn after bass. Usually can go up and eat the bass eggs off of the nest. If there's nobody there guarding it, you have little bait fish come up and eat the eggs and the little fry when they're super small. So that's why those fry garters and males have to be there. But if you'll notice, you'll see a lot of people catching 15, 20, 30 fish a day, posting all over Facebook. But you'll notice most of the fish are dinks. That's because a lot of fry garters are up shallow. They're catching all the males. So if that's the case, so that's happening to you, I recommend you fish a little deeper. That means go out offshore a little bit more. Use top water, use jerk baits, use reaction, spinner baits, and then also bottom bounce. If you have a fish finder, pay attention to it. I was able to catch some fish in 20 plus feet of water, while the majority of them were up in 2 to 5 feet of water. And there were still nice, decent groupings of fish out deep. And those, I believe, were post spawn because I caught one. It was a real long, big, it was a skinny one. It was post spawn. But they were the bigger fish, just skinnier, so they didn't weigh as much as they would have. They were bigger than the dinks I was catching up shallow. It was like, well, screw dealing with this. But there's still some big mamas up shallow. There's still time. Depends on what part of the country you're from. You're East Coast, man, it's spawn right now or barely turning on. Go have some fun. You in Texas, Florida, California, you either post spawn or late stage spawn. Where there's still spawn, but you'll have a lot of fry garters, a lot of fry swimming around, a lot of crazy shit all going on at the same exact time. Fish out deep, fish up shallow, little fry garters, some with no fry garters, some female fry garters because the male got caught and turned in a tournament or ate or what have you. All kinds of crap. So the fish are doing all kinds of stuff. Then the bluegills start moving up. Big mamas start eating the bluegills. Then when the fry get big enough, the male turn on the fry. Then they eat all the fry. The fry run away and they go deep and they ball up. They go looking for cracks and crevices and rocks to hide in, trees, wherever they can go. Right, they go to get away. The shore becomes a little bit more barren. Still fish up there, and that's when the bluegill move up. Then the bluegill lay their beds and lay their eggs and do their thing next. That's usually a summertime thing, like June. So next month. So we still got a while of this whole wacky doodle fish that are everywhere. So you can catch them doing everything right now. Trick is where are the better fish, and in your body of water it could be a lot different. So just keep an open mind. The good old throw the kitchen sink at them, but do it with some precision, right? Throw a few things at a time. Don't throw a lure 10 casts and give up on it. If you're going to throw a lure, throw it for a while and throw it with some different variances. Don't throw a jig for 20 casts, but they're all the same. And then say, oh, they must not be biting. Try something different. Work your jig differently, faster, slower, bigger pops, littler pops. Go find a different shoreline. You're fishing rock, go find mud and dirt. You're fishing mud and dirt, go find rock. You're fishing those, go find grass and trees and shit. Go find, if you're fishing steep, go find shallow. You're fishing shallow, go find steep. Shake it up a little bit before you change to a different type of lure, especially if you're breaking the areas down or you're trying to get confident with those lures. So if you're not caught a lot of fish on a jig but you want to, you've got to throw it a little more. If you haven't caught a lot of fish on a crankbait but you want to, you got to throw it a little more. Same thing with the spinnerbait. And in my own words, I need to take my own advice. That's where I've been throwing things like a big swim bait more. So like my last trip out at New Hogan, I was chucking an S-Waver 200 for like a good hour. Just none of that footage made the video because I didn't catch anything. So I was bored. I just decided not to include it because I didn't think you guys would like to see me all huffing, puffing, and breathing all heavy, with the thing right by my face, chucking a big old swim bait for an hour. What parts do I add or, what, like, I don't know. I just didn't want to put it in there. But I fished a good hour with that thing. And chasing big old striper and bass, and couldn't even get a follower on it. It was sad. I had more followers following in my Ned rig than I did that swim bait. So, but I'm not gonna give up. So next trip, I'm gonna chuck that thing. I'm gonna be out there throwing it. Right now is really not the time. It was probably, well, you can still use them for post spawn, big old, post spawners will eat it. But I like a deeper diving crankbait or a spinner bait or a kitech or something. A little smaller but big enough so a big fish will eat it. It's a good enough meal, but the bait's small enough and easy enough to manage and have more confident in it. And I can also catch a 2 or 3 pounder. I can catch a 10 pounder on a crankbait. With a big old 12-inch swim bait, or 8-inch swim bait, you're not going to get many bites. You most likely won't. And when you do, they're going to be monsters. But God, is it frustrating to fish for hours, and not get bit. I get all ADD out and I want to catch something. So I start throwing, a drop shot or a Ned rig or a Nico or a square bill or whatever. Go to my go-to stuff. And sure enough, start catching fish. But if you want to get better at it, you got to throw it. So that's, and that's my own advice to myself. And I follow it, but, you know, uh, not as much as I probably should. So we'll work on that. Haven't seen him in a while. Charlie has been hurt. He got ran over by a car a couple weeks ago, so his toe's been in a cast. His leg's been. It was really just his toe. Might need to be amputated, so they weren't sure or not. So he's been in a not a cast, in a stent that we have to like go every 3 or 4 days and get it rewrapped. It's a splint, whatever, and he's doing good, but he's got the cone of shame on so that he won't like bite at his toe. And he loves the water, so I can't trust that he won't jump in the water. So I haven't taken him on any fishing trips lately. I have 2 puppies, Trudy and Dakota, that are German Shepherds as well. So we got 3 German Shepherds right now, and I want to take them as well, but they just got fixed like a week ago. So their stitches are the type that dissolve naturally over time. So we're just waiting a few days and then we could take them fishing. And I also want to make sure they don't poop or pee on my boat. So I'm making sure they're really fine tuned in their potty training. They're pretty good, but they're puppies. So I got to keep the deck clear of hooks. And they like water too. So they'll jump out as well. So I got to watch them when I'm driving. Charlie is falling in the lake already. He knows better. So he probably won't jump in unless I tell him, jump in or throw a ball or something. So I'm looking forward to this summer taking the dogs out and the spring because they're all black. The girls are really dark. They're like black compared to Charlie, so they'll overheat in the sun real easy. So I got to keep them. Yeah, I got to take care of them. So I'm daddy. Got to make sure I don't burn them up in the sun. Where am I going tomorrow? Eastman. I'm gonna be at Lake Eastman. I'm gonna try to do like 3 or 4 videos for you guys in one trip. So I'm gonna probably try to show like how to use crankbaits around wood, grass, or vegetation. Might do another addition to the crankbait video, or might do a Cinco and a Kitech video. Talk about how to fish weed edges and grass edges and in grass, and some of the challenges that you face actually fishing in vegetation, how to overcome them, what lures to use. Then we'll probably show like we might do a spinnerbait video, go hunting down some spinnerbait fish. Depends on how successful and how good the fishing is, because I can't talk about all this stuff and then not catch fish like that, right? So I spend a little bit of time talking about the subject and then I go out and fish for a few hours, and if I don't get any spinnerbait fish, then I'm not going to have a spinnerbait video, am I? So um, we'll see what we can do, but the goal is to try to take one trip and make 3 or 4 videos sometimes out of it and make them into kind of like tips and tricks and lesson videos. Not where I know it all, trying to tell everybody, "Oh, this is how you have to do it," but like, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. This is what's working. This is where I'm at, and this is the conditions. So if you're in another area of the country, world, state, whatever, you can still hopefully take the information I'm giving you and apply it to your body of water. We just might not be on the same page. So here it might be warm, there it might be cold. Here the water might be dirty, there it might be clear. But trust me, I fish dirty water, I fish clear water, I fish shallow water, I fish deep. I'm going to hit whatever topics are important to you eventually. And so try to share all the information that I've built up over 30 years of fishing. Again, I'm not like a pro or nothing, but I'm not too bad. I'm not too shabby. So try to help out. And I think we all got stuff we can learn from each other. I can learn from each and every one of you mostly as well. So it's just awesome having a cool community here. I like the challenges too. So if you guys want to see me out there throwing a certain lure, doing a certain thing, um, bank fishing or whatever have you, I'd be more than happy to do that. But thanks for hanging out tonight, by the way, everybody. We're almost to 9 o'clock. So, any last questions, comments, anything you guys want to get in? Now's your time. Fire it away. I'm going to smash this beer, sip it. We got 5 minutes left, and then we'll go ahead and take off here. Always notice when I start talking about it being 10, 20 minutes to 9, people who are with me, most of the live stream start leaving. Like, all right, later. Like there's still 10, 15 minutes, all right, still 5 minutes if you guys want to talk. I should probably learn to just break it off at 9 and just keep going. All right. But I feel the need. It's almost like last call, right? So it's, hey, if you got anything to say, now's your time. Then get your questions or comments in now, because it'll be next, Friday. It'll be Friday when we jump back on. And sometimes I miss a live stream, so you never know. That way, if you really wanted my opinion or someone else is here, right? Because that's even the cool thing is we all have opinions. I'm not going to say yours is invalid. I'm not going to say, like, if you like to catch fish on an orange, crawdad bait, this and that, or you catch them on a this or that, great. I'm not going to say that my bait is better or my way's any better. It's a great thing that we can all share what works for us, because I'll take what you guys say and I'll go try it out at the lake. I don't care. I think a smart person will instantly do R&D, rip off and duplicate. If you see something that is better than what you're doing now, why would you continue to do what you're doing instead of incorporate what someone else is doing if it's more efficient or works better? But out of jealousy, like, oh man, like I didn't figure, oh no, no, that's copying. I can't do that. Oh hell no. If it's working, I'm all game. Sign me up. Right. I'll throw whatever lures working. I'll try whatever techniques working. So I'm always humble like that. As far as I know that even the most basic fishermen can go out there and have a magical day and just destroy them. And some of the best guys would go out there and get our ass whooped. So keeping a good attitude about it. Never give up. Never quit. I didn't have my hat on tonight. I felt all like exposed. At least I'm not bald, but I was like, oh no, my hair. Usually I got my hat on. Exactly. You were fishing Clear Lake. You saw your partner catching a lot on a Nico rig. Now you got a ton of Nico rig stuff and you're going to try it out. That's how I started using the Nico rig. Like, well, shoot, you're doing it. I'm going to try that. You're over here drop shot and they're doing whatever and they're catching more fish than you. You're like, I want to do that. Yeah, yeah, I ain't lying. Whatever's working, I'll pick it up and do it. To add to what you were saying about R&D, exactly. You rip off and duplicate. That's exactly what you do, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's what we all do in life. you know from a baby, we see our mother and father telling us and doing this and that, and then we copy and we do those same things. And things that don't work and they get pain or cause bad stuff, we don't touch the stove once we know it's hot, right? We don't throw uh, we don't throw spinner baits, or whatever. We don't throw a certain lure when all the fish are over here and they're not down there, or whatever, right? You got my you get my point. You try to um, reason it out and do what's called for in the circumstance. But if someone's got it figured out better than you, like, isn't that the definition of crazy, to do the same thing and expect different results? So if something's working, and what you're doing isn't, well, shoot, sign me up, partner. I'll do what you're doing. That's how I've always been, you know. I'll never say, like, if I figured it out or I came up with something, I'll tell you that. But there's a lot of smart people in the world. Sometimes you think about a problem, right? And you're like, and you think about it real long and hard, and you figure a solution out. And you think, and you in your mind came up with and invented or created that solution. But then you go and look online, and five other guys already doing the same thing, created that same solution. But your brain works the same way, right? You came up with the answer eventually. You technically invented it, but in reality, you weren't the first one. And no, you didn't. Someone else did. But maybe you didn't see them and steal their idea. Maybe you created it on your own. But it's the same thing, right? So if you see something that's working, why not do it? That's what I do. Anyways, thank you for joining me tonight on Common Sense Fishing. Really appreciate it. Smash that subscribe and like. We'll see you guys on Friday. I'm going to be out at Lake Eastman, um, and wish me luck. Hopefully, we'll catch some. We'll do might do a live stream from the lake. If not, I'll probably at least talk to you guys on Friday about what worked, and we'll catch everybody up on it. Okay. So thanks a lot. You guys have a wonderful night and take it easy and tight lines, everybody.